Part 2, that is relationship between the change in volume and pressure. So you can see the total lung capacity is like 6 liters, and the residual volume, it includes the residual volume plus expiratory reserve volume. So this way, about this volumes we'll see later. Just for now, let us see residual volume plus expiratory reserve volume is equal to functional residual capacity. That is the resting volume of lung and the chest wall is called the functional residual capacity. And the functional residual capacity along with the lung reserve volume with the tidal volume together, all three together is called, all three together is called the total lung capacity. So this all in volumes we'll see next chapter. So the resting volume of chest wall is 60% of total lung capacity, that is greater than the lungs resting volume. So the intrapleural pressure remains negative, or the sucking pressure, and the pressure inside and outside is equal and opposite. It is called resting stage. So remember, the pressure inside and outside is equal and opposite. It is called resting stage. The net pressure or transmural pressure is zero in resting stage, and the tendency to recoil increases more when we stretch them out to their original resting volume, and the lungs resting volume is low when compared with the chest wall. So this all I am just reading out because already I explained in the previous video, so that now you can understand just by reading. So the lungs usually stretch outward and have natural tendency to recoil back when the chest and lung walls stick with each other, that is both parietal and visceral layers stick together. In a middle there is a pleural fluid in between them. So they develop the intrapleural negative pressure as they try to move away from each other, that is the lung and chest wall. So the volume of lung is 2.5 liter during resting volume, it's half liter. So the pressure inside the pleural cavity after the quiet expiration is 5 centimeter of water. In a normal person at functional residual capacity, lungs move inward, the chest wall outward, and the intrapleural pressure is -5. This is very important. So the intrapleural pressure is -5 centimeter, that is, which is a sucking pressure, which is maintaining both lungs and chest wall together. So mainly during inspiration, the intrapleural pressure becomes more negative because the tendency of chest and lungs expand, and later they have the greater tendency to recoil back. So is more, then the pressure becomes more negative. So already we discussed, especially in inspiration, the volume increases. As the volume increases, the pressure decreases, means the pressure becomes more negative. Decreases means what? Nothing but becoming more negative. Why it becomes more negative? Because outside the atmospheric pressure is like 760, or you can take at zero volume. So as inside, as it is negative, it attracts more, sucks the more oxygen or more air into the lungs. So the pressure becomes more negative. So during expiration, the lungs get smaller, they reach the resting volume, and their tendency to recoil is less, and they become less negative. So you can see here the tendency to recoil is also less because already the lungs are now smaller, because you know what to say, during expiration, the lungs volume decreases whereas the pressure increases. Why the lungs volume decreases? To expel the air out. And why the pressure increases? Because outside the pressure is atmospheric pressure is zero. Now the pressure should increase above the atmospheric pressure, then only the air can be get out from the lungs. So what is pneumothorax? So pneumothorax is nothing but the air sometime may enter into the pleural cavity if there is any stab injury, that is hole in the pleural cavity. As it is suction pressure, air enters into the cavity. So some diseases may form necrotic or dead tissue inside the lung that disintegrate, and air from the lung can leak out of the lung to the outside. Also in pneumothorax, as now air enters the lungs, it move inward the chest wall and move outward, air is filled in excess inside the cavity. So actually, what happens, the main reason in pneumothorax is, by diagram you can easily understand. So for example, these are the lungs. So this is the pleura. So this is the chest wall. So here, if you have any injury, so because of injury, this is a pleural fluid, right? In the pleural fluid, if the air enters, so the air enters inside the pleural fluid. Now what happens is, because of this air, the lungs go deeper, means the lungs become smaller now in the resting position, and the chest comes now more out, chest expands towards outward. So So because of this condition, now the negative pressure inside the pleural cavity is gone as the air has entered. So because of this, the person respiratory cycles are disturbed. He can't respire well because the lungs are sucked inward. So because of this, the air may not enter in, and also it is hard to get out expiration because the valves, the ducts of respiration may get narrowed. So already in resting stage only they are narrowed, and expiration, they're furthermore narrowed. So the uh, air from the lungs may not go out. So because of all this condition, it may lead to pneumothorax. It's a very dangerous condition. So next you can see here the atelectasis or collapsed lungs, and the gap between the chest wall and lungs is filled with it. So even atelectasis is nothing but the lungs has shrunken, that is called as atelectasis or collapsed lungs. This can be seen mainly in a pneumothorax. So by special tube, so what is the treatment for this? Now we need to remove the air so that we can bring everything to back. So we need to use a special tube to suck the air outward and the lungs come back to the original position. So and also the chest wall, finally we need to seal that area. So like this we need to do the treatment. We need to immediately remove the air and seal the tube so that again everything becomes normal. So the conditions which alter the lung compliance stretchability, let us see what are those. The first one is the lung become more compliant or stretchable. So any substance, so even if the lungs become more stretchable or they reduce the stretchable, both are the problem. You can see lungs become less compliant or stretchable, both are the problem. So let us see the first case. Any substance which makes the elastin fibers disturbed or reduced, then the compliance increases. We already know elasticity is inversely proportional to compliance. So as elasticity is decreased, means compliance will increase. So it is mainly seen in emphysema patients who smoke more. So the smokers, in smokers we can mainly see in this emphysema. So let us see what happens to them. Mainly carbon dioxide and irritants are increased in the alveoli. So because of this irritants, there are special macrophages which clean out the waste, and they are more in smokers. So actually macrophages always try to engulf this waste particles. So in carbon dioxide is increased in smoking people, and also some dust particles. So all this, to clean them, actually macrophages reach there in the alveoli and they try to engulf them. So they release the lysosomal enzymes which have the elastasis, but the elastin fibers in the lung tissue and the septa of alveoli are destroyed, and the gas exchange areas are also decreased. So actually what happens, actually macrophages tries to clean this area, but instead of cleaning this, like small people or dogs, when they see food their saliva leaks out. So in the same way, even here when the macrophages is trying to eat this waste material, then the like saliva, this lysozyme enzymes are leaked out. So because of this leaking, what happens, the septas, the surrounding area tissues, all those are destroyed by this lysozymes. So the lungs become easily stretchable, that is the increase compliance because of this, because the structures around it, the elastic fibers, all those are reduced. So the elastin fibers are also destroyed by the lysosome. So elastin is decreased and the compliance is increased. So the tendency to recoil is also decreased, because the tendency of recoil is directly proportional to elasticity. As now the elasticity is decreased, even the recoiling nature is decreased. So the inspiration, yeah, in this patients the inspiration is easy because now the compliance is more. So even with small inspiration they have more stretchability, whereas the expiration is hard because of this elastins and recoiling nature is gone. The tissues or the bronchioles or the smaller airways which are like narrowed, they remain there in the narrow state itself, and they cannot get stretched because there are no elastic fibers. So during expiration the whole air cannot come out from these lungs. So you can see here lungs become easily stretchable, increase compliance, but expiration becomes harder in this patient. So normally during inspiration, alveoli also expand along with lungs, but they have radial traction pulling airway to open up, and during normal expiration, the radial traction come closer, and the alveoli also becomes smaller along with lungs. So due to emphysema, if the elastic fibers are less during expiration, coming back become alveolar harder because of less elastic tissue, and the airways remain smaller because less fibers can't move them effectively away, and alveoli also become larger. So the expiration is incomplete and the air remains in the lungs. They become larger and the total lung capacity increases, like about 8 liter greater than the normal 6 liter. So the barrel shaped chest in emphysema patients, so they can't breathe well, lungs become air trappers and tidal volume decreases. So actually in these patients you can always see that their lungs are expanded because of this. You can from outside also you can see their chests are expanded and somewhat elevated because they're having more inspiration, more compliance. but whereas expiration is not able to take place here. So in normal lung, the pressure is directly proportional to volume, constant. In emphysema, due to elastasis, the pressure is directly proportional to volume but increased volume. So here emphysema is an obstructive lung disease because it's obstructing the airflow out in expiration, right? So here the functional residual volume is increased, the residual volume is increased, but the tidal volume is decreased, mainly in emphysema. So these are the main important things you need to remember. Functional residual volume is increased, residual volume is increased, but the tidal volume is decreased. So the decreased one, if you remember, it is enough. So the graph would be like this in emphysema patients. And lungs become less compliant or stretchable. So what happens in this case if the compliance decreases? So chronic inflammatory diseases like cystic fibrosis are inevitable when they activate, form fibroblasts, start depositing excessive collagen in lungs, and they harden, stiff when lungs become smaller. In fibrotic lung diseases, here airways remain same, they are not obstructive but restrictive. So that is the difference between obstructive and restrictive. Here you can see in obstructive, this is obstructive because the airways are narrower, so the air can't get out, but it is restrictive because their fibroblast is activated, lot of fibrous tissue. Now the lung has become more restrictive, so because of this the air cannot come out here also. So more elastance, here elasticity is increased, more recoiling is increased, decreased compliance. So here actually the elasticity is increased, recoiling also very much increased, but the lung itself is fibrosed here. So here the tidal volume is decreased, reserve volume is also decreased, and total lung capacity. So here this is very important, all three are decreased, but here only tidal volume is decreased in obstructive lung disease, whereas in restrictive lung disease, remember, tidal volume decreased, reserve volume decreased, total lung capacity also decreased. So inspiration becomes difficult, but the expiration is here. So here the inspiration becomes difficult because here the compliance is decreased. If the compliance is decreased, the person need to try a lot of hard to inspire the air because here the lung is slow, so much fibrous, it cannot increase its volume. So it's very hard for inspiration. So these both are reverse. In obstructive, expiration is harder. In restrictive, inspiration is harder. So remember, whenever the compliance increases, expiration will get harder. Whenever the compliance decreases, inspiration will get harder. So next let us see the dynamic lung compliance, the pressure volume loop in which air is moving in and out, and static lung compliance, pressure volume loop in which the air is not moving. So maximum air out and expiratory volume, lungs compliance change dynamically during inspiration, expiration is called hysteresis. So volume decrease inspiration, volume increase expiration. So this all we already understood. All those things, the important term is, you can see, by adding surfactant, the surface tension decreases. Actually, I will explain this in very short form, no need to see all this. So normally this is a surface. For example, this is alveoli, right? Here the capillary. So in alveoli also there are some water molecules which are lying there, and they try to remain on the surface. So actually in surface they have produced lot of forces, and because of that the surface tension is increased a lot. If the surface tension increase allows the lung have a capacity to collapse. Actually, how can I explain the surface tension? For example, if you throw water on some drops, if you're trying to throw the drops on the floor, at first they appear drop, but if you throw those drop nearer to nearer, they try to continue as one big droplet. So because of this they try to bring that any structure more nearer. So here also they bring the alveoli more nearer, and finally they collapse the alveoli. So the surface tension, increased surface tension may collapse the alveoli. Whereas if you have surfactant, so actually what is a surfactant? On these molecules, now if you start applying a surfactant is any like kind of glycoprotein or lipid. So actually what it does, it doesn't allow these molecules to attach together, so that now this surfactant keep them away, so that the lung have more surface area and it can easily exchange the particles. So that is the main surfactant which plays a role, so which decrease the surface tension and helps the lung, especially help the alveoli from it prevents the collapsing of the alveoli. So, and we also have one experiment like saline solution is given into the lung. So because of giving saline solution, the compliance of the lung is increased. So here actually what because of saline solution the alveoli remain unsticky. If the alveoli is sticky, they may also collapse and the compliance decrease. But if the alveoli far they are not sticky, then there may be increase in compliance. So as we have understood the concept, now let us try to complete it fast the surface tension, because the video is getting longer. So you can see the alveoli are mainly lined by two types of pneumocytes, type 1 and type 2. Type 1 pneumocyte are flattened cells like squamous cells, and type 2 pneumocytes are cuboidal cells. So this produce the surfactant. So mainly this type 2 only produces surfactant. So very important, pneumocyte type 2 produces surfactant. So water molecules in the bulk are attracted in different directions which are equal, so the net force is 0, so they move freely on the surface of alveoli. So forces acting on the surface are not equal and act not in all directions, that is they have the unopposed attraction inward but not upward because they are in the surface. So there is no in number of surface decreases, so they move inward to bulk. So the surface top area and the air water interface, and this area starts shrinking, the tension is developed, and surface molecule, already we discussed the same phenomena. So for the given volume they shrink accordingly. So if all surface cells in the alveoli try to shrink, they pull the alveolar walls together along with due to surface tension and try to collapse. Finally the alveoli and the air try to escape with certain pressure, that is collapsing pressure. So the air, this is important. So because of this surface tension, the air which is produced there, that is called as collapsing pressure air. So according to Laplace's law, Laplace's law says that pressure is directly proportional to 2 times of tension divided by radius. That is, tension is directly proportional to pressure, but pressure is inversely proportional to radius. So if there is more surface tension, there is more collapsing pressure. So more surface tension, more collapsing pressure. If low surface tension, low collapsing pressure. So to reduce the surface tension, we use surfactant. So if alveoli are smaller, more collapsing pressure. So this is very important. If smaller alveoli have more collapsing pressure and larger alveoli have less collapsing pressure. So pressure is inversely proportional to radius. Then smaller alveoli may empty into larger alveoli, and the larger alveoli may increase its unstable size and disturb the ventilation. So sometimes, in some cases what happens is, this is a larger alveoli, this is a smaller alveoli. So because of this, the pressure here is very high, so the air from this may go into this. But it is a problem because here the ventilation may increase. We will discuss later the ventilation perfusion ratio. If the ventilation is very high, the perfusion may be very high, or it may disturb. And here in this lung, now because the ventilation is low, the perfusion may be disturbed, some tissues may not get enough oxygen, so there may we will see that ventilation perfusion later. So this is a problem. So if both larger and smaller alveoli are nearer to each other, they may disturb even others. So normally between the perfusion and ventilation ratio should be 1:1, but in this condition it is over ventilated alveoli with normal perfusion, exchange within the gases may become abnormal. So we have 300 million alveoli in both lungs. So increase in 300 million, multiple small alveolus in our lung. But if they become more smaller, they may collapse by increased capillary pressure, collapse pressure. So when surface tension is very high, they can pull the water from the capillaries, and that they reduce the exchange system may be damaged, and this is the tendency of edema formation. So even here you can see edema formation. So mainly pneumocyte 2 produces surfactant, that is 90% lipids and 10% protein. This is very important composition of surfactant. Surfactant have 90% lipids and 10% proteins. These are arranged in clusters called laminar bodies. So mainly by the process of exocytosis, come out from the cluster as tubules and called tubular hyaline. And within tubular myelin, they are the molecules of surfactant. Their lipids are dipeptidyl, phosphatidyl, choline, and they are the proteins called apoproteins, IgA, albumin, all are involved in it. So this dipeptidyl group is hydrophobic, and the protein side is hydrophilic. They are amphiphytic molecules both in water and other surfaces. So these surfactant molecules are floating on the surface where pymidyl group float, and the proteins side is present inside the water, and they are all pulled in equal forces, and they have no tendency to jump inwards, so that the burst shrink and collapse the membrane and can't produce surface tension. And as these surfactants start placing, their water start dissolving, so surface tension decreases as surfactants are expressed. So apoprotein A, D act as opsonin. They bind to macrophage and bacteria and facilitate phagocytosis of microbe. B and C apoprotein helps surfactant to spread over the surface. So apoprotein A also help in more efficient secretion of surfactant from the tubular myelin. Yeah, we have come to last part. Effects of surfactant: collapsing tendency decrease, pressure decrease, surface tension decrease. As you know, tension is directly proportional to pressure. Acetatic is decreased, alveolar collapse is decreased due to the surface tension is decreased. Surface tension is increased, means decrease in compliance. So because of surfactant, if there is decrease in surface tension, increase in compliance, the work of breathing is decreased. This condition is seen mainly in respiratory distress syndrome in infants. So this is important to discuss. Around 24th week, the surfactants start developing in infants, but it is very less amount, and from 35th week, high amount of surfactant is produced. So here the problem in respiratory distress syndrome is actually if the in 35th week there are surfactants forms, but here in some people they may born premature babies. In that that babies may don't have this surfactant. Because of this, their alveoli may collapse, and it may lead to respiratory distress syndrome. So if there is premature birth usually before 37 weeks, if the extra premature that is around 35th or before 35th and amount of surfactants is not enough, then the alveoli may stick together. So normally any baby who is newborn may have collapsed alveoli because of maternal oxygen supply, but once umbilical cord is cut off, the hypoxia develops in the baby, and that triggers the respiratory neurons in medulla that give the response to strong inspiration. Then air rushes out in the first cry. So, but if there is no or less surfactant, then the alveoli may not open and work slowly, and may develop the respiratory distress and may do extra effect for breathing. So, advantage of surfactant: reduce the edema, keep the alveoli dry as it prevents water entry from capillary. Surfactant stabilize the size of alveoli during inspiration and expiration. Higher concentration of surfactant in smaller alveoli and lower concentration, but high spread of surfactant in bigger alveoli. Surfactant increase the tension in big one, and smaller one decrease the tension, decrease pressure. So new smaller alveoli with will not empty itself into large alveoli now, and further extension is stopped. Alveoli sharing the walls may not also have effect on tension. So all these are like positive effects. The negative effects which I have talked, those are all now decreased by means of this surfactant. So this is all about our mechanics. You should also see some, only like few are remained from our textbook. Everything is covered here only. So that are like the work of breathing is remaining. So actually what is the work of breathing is, the respiratory muscle normally perform the work to cause inspiration but not to cause expiration. So work is done only inspiration, because expiration is a passive process. So the compliance work or elastic work, actually these works are like of different types. Compliance work or elastic work to overcome viscosity of lung and chest wall is called tissue resistance work, and to overcome airway resistance is called airway resistance work. And the first one is compliance work, right? It is to expand the lungs against the lung and chest elastic forces, then it is called compliance work. To overcome viscosity of lung and chest wall is called tissue resistance work, and to overcome airway resistance is called airway resistance work. And the energy required for respiration is 3 to 5% of total energy, but during heavy exercise you need 50-fold increase airway resistance or decrease pulmonary compliance. And minute respiratory volume is the total amount of new air moved into respiratory bags each minute, and it is equal to tidal volume times respiratory rate per minute. So total it's like about 6 liter per minute, where the tidal volume is 500 milliliters and normal respiratory rate is like 12 breaths per minute. And alveolar ventilation is the new air reaching the alveoli, alveolar sacs, alveolar ducts, and also respiratory bronchioles. This is called alveolar ventilation. And dead space is the sum of the air person breathe which never actually what is dead space is, the air sometimes may reach into some parts of lungs, but it is not used for the gas exchange, like it is not used for the exchange only. Then why this air is, so that is called as dead space. That kind of air is called dead space. So for measurement of dead space, we have a formula like VD is equal to gray area into VE by pink area plus gray area. So what are these areas, you may think? That is from this graph. So in this graph you can see this is the gray area. This, according to the graph, we have some formulas and we can apply it. So here you can see the normal dead space volume, that is 150 milliliters. It is one of the important one. And dead space increases with slightly with age.